Good
Hello.
evening. We're live. It's Thursday evening. Everybody was paused there. I've got notifications all over my screen. I hope everyone can see and hear us. That's hopeful. I'm Mike. Nice to see you. Haven't been on for a few weeks. Ian's off this week with bacterial tonsillitis. So it's the quietest Ian Macbeth has been in his entire adult life. So I hope everyone's enjoying the peace and quiet on social media that he's providing everybody. Ian, get well soon. So, guys, thanks for joining me. Few introductions if you haven't watched before. I hope your screen is the same shape as mine. First, in the top left, Ellen looks after Bracknell, Warfield, and Binfield. Andrew, as he's quite kindly put in his description, is our man for Slough, looking fantastic in front of the Love Island wall. Bottom left, Ellen's business partner Sanjay, obviously at Bracknell, Warfield, and Binfield as well. And bottom right, Will of Will and Mike, who look after Finch, Hampstead, Crowthorne, and Sandhurst. Those are the intros. I'm Mike, sat in the head office in the podcast studio. We've got 3 topics to talk about this evening. And if you are watching live and you have a question either about our topics or something totally different, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll do our best to answer it. Make it as random as you like. Ellen loves a random question, so just fire away, and we'll see what we can do. First topic of the evening. I feel like this has been submitted to us by one of our agents because they're quite keen to have a little rant about something, which is not uncommon on a Thursday evening. Using a solicitor for your conveyancing. The topic is, why should you use a good local solicitor? As pointing. We're going somewhere directly. I don't know where Will's pointing to. Ellen, you're itching. Can you tell everybody why it is important to use a good local solicitor?
I think this is something we all feel very, very strongly about. Good local solicitors will not be the cheapest, but you will get what you pay for. And you need a good one when it really matters, when it comes to the crunch, when it comes to the hard parts where you need to get hold of someone. And instead of being passed around pillar to post, contacting someone on an app or emailing Team 5 app, you need a single dedicated contact so that we're not chasing you, everyone else isn't chasing us, just to get it done and over the line. Another reason is there will be historic covenants on houses. For example, half of Bracknell says you can't have a sky dish on your house without permission. Now, a local solicitor will know that it's fine, it doesn't matter. Someone based up north will see that and cause weeks of delays trying to sort out something that doesn't need to be sorted out. So that's all I have to say. Anyone else?
Anybody else want to follow up on? I mean, I know you guys use a Bracknell solicitor. If you work in Bracknell and you're buying a property in Bracknell, what can a Bracknell solicitor bring you to bring down the time between your initial offer being accepted and completing on the property?
Local knowledge is a big one. Being able to go in and see them, to go through your contracts and sign them same day, rather than waiting a week for them to arrive in the post, a week to send them back, and then it turns out there's a signature missing, and then it's another week to go there and back.
Communication. Got a good working example. I live in Warfield, as a lot of people know, and there's a few roads in Warfield which are listed as flood risks. Don't know if you know this or if you don't know this, because there's a little river which runs through Warfield, which is very nice to walk along, called the Cut. The Cut happens to be 14 feet below street level. But those houses that are near that river are listed as a flood risk because they're near a river. Now, your local solicitor is going to know that the cut is 14 feet below road level, and that river has never risen more than about 2 feet deep. but a solicitor that's based in Leicestershire, Northamptonshire, Lincolnshire in a massive company is going to list that as a flood risk and start making problems for your sale or your purchase. That's my working example of why to use someone local who's going to use their common sense over raising 1,000 inquiries on something that, quite frankly, the third coming of the apocalypse could happen and that river's never going to flood.
I think that's the thing, is it's common sense. And at the beginning of the transaction, the easy stuff, your ID checks, applying for searches, anyone can do that. And the trainee solicitors are often the ones in charge of that. But it's come crunch time when there are things to be dealt with well and with common sense, using someone local that you can get hold of as well, that you've got an open line of communication with, and not a team of 17 people where you never speak to the same person again. It just causes so many unnecessary delays, stresses. We don't want this to be a stressful experience. It doesn't have to be. And often it's those external forces that's what causes people to get quite fraught in transactions, I find.
Will, anything to add on where we are on this?
Yeah, obviously having a good solicitor, as Ellen has said, is so important. Communication is obviously one of those things. Moving home can be stressful, like you said. It doesn't have to be. So communication is key. So having a solicitor that you can actually talk to over the phone. We've had cases where we've worked with solicitors for buyers and sellers, and they've obviously not been the most expensive, but you're not allowed to ring them. They simply won't answer your call, and it's a 1 to 2 reply time via email. So if you've got complications, like you said, with whatever it might be, or they don't know about something, when you're emailing somebody and you're waiting a couple of days, to hear a response, that's when people start getting frustrated and things start falling through. So that's obviously a key one. Also, using a solicitor who gets on with the estate agent, gets on with us, because, again, if that is not happening, we've got a great example of this, actually. Mike is looking after one for us in Crowthorne, and he spoke with the solicitor the first time. And without mentioning any names, this solicitor sort of said, "Look, Mike, I'll be very honest with you. I don't like estate agents." And Mike sort of said, "Look, we can try and change your opinion. We're here to work together, right? That's the most important thing. We all need the same end result here." And he was sort of like, "Well, I've been doing this 30 years. You're not going to change my opinion." So great. This is going to be a great
just to be slightly controversial, if you're a conveyancing solicitor listening or watching this this broadcast and you don't like estate agents, possibly you're in the wrong job. Just going to throw it out there. Because you're dealing with property transactions which are done by estate agents. Very strange, bit of a strange take. Maybe he just dislikes his life, dislikes his job, and takes it out on other people. But who knows? Ellen and Sanjay, by the way, on this very subject, I had a demo with a business called 20EA today, who are the biggest data collection company in our industry. Across Bracknell, you guys complete on properties 2 weeks faster than any other estate agent.
That's because they use the right, mainly use the right solicitors.
Really point. You didn't know that. You didn't know I was going to say that. But
No.
they provided a very nice graph which said you guys actually do everything much faster than everybody else from listing to completion. And you also have the highest completion rate of any estate agent in Bracknell, which I knew from sort of circumstantial evidence, but it's actually been proved to me today. So maybe those graphs will wind their way over to you. Andy Humphreys, topic number 2. Why do you need to be sold before you try to buy a property? Or do you need to be sold before you try to buy a property?
So I think yes and no. So I know everyone has different opinions on this. I don't think necessarily you have to be sold, but I think you have to be ready to sell at a sellable price. So I think we speak to lots of people on a daily basis, and I'm not ready to sell my property, or it's not in the market yet. But if you're competing with 10, 15, 20 other buyers, 100% you're going to miss out. But if the property's not had a huge level of interest on it since launch, in my opinion, there's no harm in them seeing it, as long as they're in a position to market their property if they wanted to at a sensible price. So I was talking to somebody the other day who said, I've inquired through 7 different estate agents and you're the only person that said, yes, I can view it. Now, she had a £750,000 house just up the road from this other one. Now, of course, I want to show her around my one because these other 6 estate agents, she blatantly said, they're not going to get my business because they're shutting the door on people that want to view it. So I think a lot of estate agents have this whole mentality of not proceedable, not viewing. But actually, if the property is not necessarily selling straight away in day one, they're not on the time restraints to sell. So why can't they view it?
That is a question for other estate agents, potentially, and for people who are thinking about selling their house. How would they feel that their estate agent is preventing people from viewing their house and potentially preventing them from getting the highest possible selling price? Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we've had examples in the past where somebody said, look, I'm not on the market. My circumstances and what I'm looking for is quite specific. Therefore, when I see it, I'll know sort of what I want. We've then shown people around those houses because at the end of the day, again, if it's an open house and like Andy said, there's 500 people looking on the day, maybe you're not going to get that one. But with circumstances being different, we've had people look round, not yet on the market. Those houses have then come on the market and sold by the end of the week. And then guess what? They're able to buy them. So it all just comes down to the market and having your house, like Andy said again, ready to market at the right price. Well, there you go. Now you can move all of a sudden.
Sanjay, you know me, and you know that there's probably 4 roads that exist that if a house was to come to market, I would absolutely drop everything to buy it. But I won't move unless I move to one of those 4 roads. There's no point in me moving because I'm quite happy where I am. Am I being cut out of the market? Should I be cut out of the market? Because I know that I would pay a premium price to live in one of those 4 places because I'd live there for the next 25 years.
It's this is not a chicken and egg scenario, in my opinion. I think end of the day, if you're committed at moving, if you want to move, then why not commit to getting yourself under offer? Now, Will, I agree with you and disagree with you because we had a scenario recently where we had a buyer who, just FYI, we would never not show someone round, regardless if they're on the market. We're not like that. Ultimately, everyone needs to get a shot. But we had a scenario recently where we had a home that was for sale, had a buyer approach us. They weren't on the market. Then what happened? 2 days before the open house, they went on the market for a cheap price, not a sellable price, a cheap price. When I'm talking cheap, they probably went 25 under market value, £25,000 under market value just to sell their home. So you tell me if you're risking losing £25,000 on your home just to rush your sale through in order to get the next home. And what they probably don't realize, or what they do realize now, is that we had 4 offers on that home and they would have had to pay over odds in order to get it because they were in a chain. So all of a sudden, they're losing potentially £50,000 on their move because they weren't committed to getting a home on the market. I'm not being funny, but that sounds to me like a stupid thing to do and not the right way to do it. And also, we had another home. It was 3 buyers that had not sold. All of them said to me it was their dream home. And they would only move for their dream home. But yet they weren't willing to put the home on the market until they found their dream home. This doesn't make any sense to me. So they all didn't get it and they end up losing. And now they feel deflated and stressed out because they can't find anything. That's not the case, though. There is stuff out there. So, yeah, that's my view on it.
I think it depends on scarcity. I totally understand their situation. I'm, sat at home with a 4-year-old and a dog and all the trappings, that a full garage and all the trappings that come along with it. I would, if the house that came up in my in my dream road came up and I had the opportunity, I'd probably sell under market value to move just to get gone, rather
personal
than
decision.
put my house on the market, have someone excited to buy it and then potentially disappoint them. That would be, I wouldn't want to do that just for the shot of maybe moving to one of 20 houses that actually exist when they might not come up. So I would be the guy who's getting my chosen estate agent to do things to try and maneuver me into the right place to find a property for me before I even came to market. Because like everybody else, I've got a very sellable home with the biggest plot, which was potentially the show home.
Of course.
Is it a
And
tower?
there is a blue plaque at the end of my street saying it's the best street in Bracknell. That is true. And if you know where I live, you know the blue plaque. So there is no right answer. And Sanjay is absolutely right. In a market where there's 15 people queuing up to buy the same dream home, if you're not on the market and you're not sold, you're going to make it really, really hard for yourself, unfortunately. But you should never be prevented from viewing a house, because you could still be the best buyer. You could still be the best buyer regardless of the fact you've got a house to sell. And there is absolutely no denying that if an agent is out there cutting people off from viewing houses, they're also potentially not doing a very good job for you. Right.
I also do agree with Andy's point, though, just going back to that, because if a house has been sat there for 3 months and it's not selling,
Oh God, yeah.
then time is not crucial, right? But also, Ed and I spoke about we've got a bespoke marketing plan for situations like this. So for people that are not on the market, we do have a plan behind that, which we can help you still achieve maximum value and still potentially get your dream home. So if you're interested, get in touch. That's all I'm saying.
Secret plan.
Secret plan.
I'm interested.
I thought you went after.
Will needs to know. Should we move on to the third topic?
Go.
No? Okay, we won't do it. Energy price caps feed. That is a sexy, sexy subject. Energy prices. There's nothing more that's going to get the listeners going than energy prices. Been capped around about £2,500. Which doesn't mean it's the max you can spend. Doesn't mean to whack on your heating and your air conditioning and leave your windows open all winter, because you can still spend more than that. That is what the average property in the UK will pay for energy bills for the next period. How will that news affect the housing market, Andrew?
I think firstly, I'd like to throw a question back out to you or anybody. When they say the average house in the UK, how are they defining that? Because the houses in the south are obviously more expensive than houses in the north, but not necessarily bigger or better. So where are they drawing the average? Is it price? Is it square footage? Is it bedrooms? Where are they getting that from?
Well, the energy price cap is based on the average cost of a unit of gas, I believe, and it's the amount that an average house uses. So nothing to do with the price or the value of that house, because obviously you can have a £1 million studio apartment in the middle of Kensington, or you can have £1 million 10-bedroom farmhouse somewhere in the northwest. Now they can obviously use vastly different amounts of energy. So I presume, if there's anyone out there who is an expert on energy, feel free to go into the comments to correct me. I presume they know how many units of energy that every house in the UK uses, and then take an average of, if every house is using on average 250 units per month, whatever that is, then that's how many units, times that by a certain amount to make £2,500, and that's your average. So if you live in a brand new 2-bedroom apartment, obviously you should be paying less than the average. If you live in a 4-bedroom detached house with single glazed windows and you leave your door open, you're still going to be over average. So that's how the averages work. The news that after this has been done, the news is that inflation has dropped. I would say there's a direct correlation between the fact that energy prices are now being capped at a reasonably sensible level, and that means inflation has dropped. Will that calm the world down? Will that mean the property market goes crazy? Will that mean the property market maintains? Or, as a nice fella on TikTok who just chucks out circumstantial evidence says, house prices have dropped in the last 10 weeks, 10%. Where are we in between those three levels?
Who is this guy?
Oh, I've had a word.
Okay.
Sanjay.
Well, price. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Prices. We haven't seen any drops in prices. If I'm being honest with you, there's still a huge. Well, I mean, it's area specific, right? You know, this is Bracknell is going to be completely different to Milton Keynes and Sunderland. You know, so you can't. And London's like a completely different market. So yeah, but we can only tell you what's going on here and now. And as far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been a slow up in prices. The only thing that's really changing things is the mortgage rate slightly because of mortgage offers expiring and things like that, which is a whole new topic, but that hasn't, so to speak, affected the prices just yet, in our opinion.
I do see more people are asking what the EPC rating is and actually caring about that now, whereas before it was just on the details and no one really knew. Now I think people are quite, oh, it's below a C, oh, I can't buy the house. You know, it's kind of, it's the next extreme thing for people to start thinking about.
It's definitely been pushed to the forefront of people's minds, where it just used to be the bill's what the bill is. Now, where it's potentially going up, it's really been pushed forward. The other thing that will be pushing people looking at energy performance certificates is additional guidelines for rental properties. It is rumoured that rental properties in the next couple of years will have to be a minimum of a C rating on an energy performance certificate. The average property in the UK at the moment is a D, which means over 50% of properties will not be able to be rented without significant improvements being made. So if you're out there and you're thinking of selling your property, check out from when you bought it. If it was in the last 14 years, check the energy performance certificate, because if it is poor, you might want to make some reasonably cheap improvements, like improving the loft insulation and the lighting to your property to bring that rating up. Because, as Ellen said, people are looking at it, and some people even ruling out houses from viewing them because the EPC rating's too low, without actually realizing you can spend a couple of £100, insulate the loft, and it will fly up.
When does this
Or
come
on
into
the
play?
flip side, if you've already insulated the loft, it's worth investing 50 quid in a new EPC. I think a lot of estate agents use it as a tick box exercise. Has the property got an EPC? Yep, boom, move on. If the EPC was done 8 years ago and you were fully insulated and cavity walled and double glazed and new boilered the house, it's well worth spending 50, 60 quid on a new EPC as opposed to just ticking the box and saying, I've got one.
Yeah, absolutely. Both hands up. I used to work on a basis, if it's got an EPC, I don't care what it says, as long as it's got an EPC, don't waste your money. 2 years ago, that's what I was saying to people, because I knew none of my buyers or my tenants cared. Was the last thing they looked at. They were like, look, I can see the house. I don't need to see your graph. And I think that's absolutely spun round on its axis. How are you finding it, Will? Same situation? Are people looking at EPCs? Is that something that people are talking to you about?
Yeah, we found that. You know, obviously with the cost of living and energy cap bills, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's become something for people now that they're taking seriously. So, yeah, I'm exactly the same as you. A little while ago, it would have been, don't worry about it. You have it. It's valid for another 3 years. So save yourself 50 to 100 quid, whatever it might be. Nowadays, like Ellen said as well, some people just won't look at it if it doesn't have, you know, a good enough rating. So. Yeah, it's become very important.
Okay, so Ian's got no voice, but he still manages to get involved in the chat with some controversy. If petrol prices are falling and inflation is also falling, is the negative property market chat just an effort to sell more of the Daily Mail? What do we? I mean, I'm totally in agreement with this. That negative publicity makes news, and no one ever switched on the news to hear the headline, "Everything's fine."
It would be so lovely
Right.
if we did.
I mean, I'd love that. That would actually, just make my day, to be honest. I could just have my dinner and sort of get on my merry way. But but no one ever started a news headline or a newspaper headline with everything's fine. It's always the world's going to end in one way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is this chat all just to fill newspaper columns, or is there some substance behind it?
Absolutely. In my opinion, I don't watch the news anymore, but it's catchy and all that happens is, some of these articles go viral and then everyone else believes it. It's a bit like, I'm not going to say the platform, but there's a platform out there which literally just pumps out fake news, but it's very catchy, borderline.
Is it named
real.
after the sound the clock makes?
No. But of course it does. But the reality is, like I said it on evaluation the other day. I said, they said, oh yeah, property prices are falling. We read in the news the other day. I think it was Sky News or somewhere like that. And I was like, but where? And they were like, well, just all over the UK. I'm like, well, is that specific to you sat here in your home? It's a very different case. Look at area specific, because the reality is that's not the case when it comes to being local. So yeah, of course it is. Agree with that.
It's absolutely true. I mean, yeah, firstly, the majority of people in the UK are homeowners. So if the price of your house drops, then the price of the one you're buying will also drop, and no one is further ahead or further behind. House price inflation actually benefits the banks more than the consumer. Something that people don't often appreciate, because they get to lend out more money each time, and lending out more money generates them more revenue. So house price inflation isn't always a great thing, but it is there, it is happening, it is true. House price inflation actually slowed in August, but only to 8.2% house price inflation year on year. So if you're being told that house prices have dropped 10% since February, which I was told yesterday, and the evidence was I've spoken to some estate agents around the UK, you're potentially hearing, there's a great big air horn you can just blare which says no BS on it. We'll probably call a halt to that chat. Guys, bank holiday on Monday for the Queen's funeral. As a business, we're obviously closed. The phone lines are there, and everyone's clients, as we know, have everybody's WhatsApp. So we're still there for all our clients. We're running into the weekend now. How are we fixed? I can tell you from the head office, as many houses are now selling as they ever have done before. That is the true stat of if you're sat in Berkshire, Northants, and Surrey and South Bucks. I lose track of all the counties that we're in. More houses are actually selling through us than they ever have done before. So the state of the market is we're selling more houses than we were this time last year, despite what's going on in the media, despite what's going on in the distractions and the inflation. So, guys, I wish you a cracking weekend. It's been an excellent half an hour. If anybody is watching on a repeat, they didn't manage to watch it live and they've got a question, please do put it on our feeds. We will get back to you. We will love to hear your questions. And until next week, when, fingers crossed, Mr. Ian Macbeth has his real voice back, we'll bid you good evening.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Cheers.